Hello, I'm Iris Asserland, and welcome to my speech reflection. To be completely honest, I do not feel I was particularly memorable to the instructional team. I already knew Kennedy, so I had a little bit of a head start, and it was great to see, connect, and engage with her again throughout the class. She was a wonderful TA. Sadly, I did not have much interaction with Dr. Burnett, and I could have put in more effort on that front. I tend to get intimidated by my professors, no matter how friendly or relaxed they seem. However, I enjoyed every interaction that I had with the instructional team. I signed up for this course to receive a quick drama credit. As a drama and education student, I feel pretty comfortable speaking in front of others and facilitating, but so much of that is done on our feet, spontaneously, so I figured this course may help me with how to properly speak and structure more formal speeches. My goals were mostly within the realm of planning rather than execution. I wanted to be able to do the tedious work as well as the speaking portion. This class really did help with that, especially the prep sheets, so my goals did not change much throughout. Kolb's Learning Circle is directly applicable to almost everything that we accomplish in this course. I will take you through Kolb's 4 stages of the cycle by going through my thought process while creating my first and second speeches. My learning begins during the conceptualization and execution of our intro speech. This is where I gain my concrete experience. I thought I knew how to public speak as a drama student, but I found the intro speech to be an entirely new situation, which caused me to interpret it in a whole new way. I thought that was what was going to happen, how things would go, but instead I was greeted by an entirely new interpretation of the experience I already had with public speaking. As I finished that speech, I entered the reflection and observation stage. As I thought about it, and why it might have felt different than before, I pinpointed one observation, an inconsistency, that stuck with me. I realized that I had never had to create such a rapport with the audience using lots of participation and engagement. I was used to performances where we are simply watched, or a classroom where I am teaching content. This is something I would have to adjust. This led me to the abstract and conceptualization stage, where I explored the idea of audience participation and how I might be able to fit it into my next speech. I thought about what my audience is like and how I can play to them specifically. At this point, I also refreshed my knowledge of audience attention grabbers and ways to involve them, which brought me straight into the active experimentation stage, where I began to create many points of audience participation throughout and try all sorts of different things while writing. I began to create an engaging piece that was more interactive than my first. Then, once I presented and succeeded, I felt as though I had went through Kolb's entire cycle once again, which gave me a satisfying feeling of accomplishment. This was great info for future teaching, especially when structuring lesson plans that are scaffolded and build upon one another. The learning cycle is vital in students' exploration and knowledge integration, and I'm happy to have learned about it. I most likely will apply the learning cycle using the learning cycle. I really enjoyed the intro speech. I liked the introduction of the grief curve for this assignment. It was very applicable to my own work, and I loved learning about my peers. I found that they all seemed extremely studious and committed compared to my drama peers, which was a fun change. And it was great to learn about audience prompting. That's something that stuck with me throughout the course. I had to do a lot of work on getting rid of psychological noise, so I tried to stay within a growth mindset to get the work done even when I didn't want to. My speech was a success, but with lots of room to grow. I felt much more confident in my major speech, even though it was my most underprepared and underpracticed. I noticed that I was much more relaxed, and I think that using the audience prompt at the beginning of my speech really helped to loosen me up and connect with the audience. I found that there were a lot of students who read from lists or directly from the slides, which surprised me, but a special shout out to Justin, who's completely memorized. Afterwards, I felt proud of my work and it made the rest of the course a little easier. And obviously, isolated practice was my best friend this time around. I liked the Ever simulation. I had the privilege of participating with 2 groups and having 2 unique experiences. The biggest learning point during the simulation was active listening, which made me think of the RASA listening strategy. I found that we were receiving and appreciating, but once, as a leader, I began to summarize and ask, our group communication excelled. All in all, I had very low expectations. I didn't think we would make it too far, and I didn't feel like a confident leader, so it surprised me when we began to work harmoniously and ended up doing very well as a team. We strategized for our goals by making everybody an equal. We didn't prioritize anyone over the other and were selfless at all times. We had to have an understanding that sacrifices will be made and that we are individuals first and foremost coming together as a strong, bonded team. We had to be ethical and think of every teammate but still prioritize ourselves. One last strategy used by me personally was asking lots of questions so that no information was missed. I loved the ceremonial speech. I was very comfortable with my material because it was more like a monologue, so I was able to speak more naturally and appeal emotionally to the audience. I enjoyed writing the speech, so it didn't feel like a chore, which made the performance and conception of the piece a lot more relaxing than the prior speeches. I was so impressed with everyone in the class. I didn't know there were so many funny people. It was so fun to watch. Everyone was super committed, and seeing the group in a more casual, less intimidating setting also made things more easygoing and comfortable. This class was super great and supportive, so here are a few things I learned from my peer network. Zainab is a twin, which is crazy. I learned that Stephen wants to teach English to hockey players in Ireland. Kaylee is my partner's ex-roommate's best friend. Richard is from Nigeria and he just moved here. Annika's gluten-free and her favorite product is the Star Puff crackers. Chidera, I just ran into her at a coffee shop and is equally stressed about our exam. Laurel became a JKSK teacher without an education degree, so she's coming back to school. And finally, Finn is an architecture and design student, which I just think is so cool. These are just a few of the really interesting people in this class, and it was a super great group to get to know. I'm very thankful for the space you created. I particularly enjoyed Kennedy's labs. Our very first lab sticks out in my mind as something that has shaped the class. I remember we were playing the game where you must count to 10 as a group without speaking at the same time. It was the first thing we did. I've done that exercise lots of times, but the group in that moment made it so much fun, and I realized this is going to be a really great environment to be in. From there on out, the labs were always memorable, from debates during Persuasion Week to creating tableaus to tell a story. It was all very enjoyable. Here is my first vocal exercise. I will be demonstrating speed and clarity within my voice. I will perform it twice. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. A peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked. If Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, where's the peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked? Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. A peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked. If Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, where's the peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked? A little bit of a mess up, but here's my second one. It will explore speed, diction, and clarity. I will do it twice. Both times will begin slow and grow faster. Diction is done with the tip of the tongue and the teeth. Diction is done with the tip of the tongue and the teeth. Diction is done with the tip of the tongue and the teeth. Diction is done with the tip of the tongue and the teeth. Diction is done with the tip of the tongue and the teeth. Diction is done with the tip of the tongue and the teeth. Diction is done with the tip of the tongue and the teeth. Diction is done with the tip of the tongue and the teeth. And those are my vocal exercises. Thank you. My biggest challenge was in the realm of listening. I am and always have been an anxious and restless person, which means lectures can be difficult. Things like rapid thoughts and having lots of psychological noise were big factors in my success or failure of the class. I managed this by having something to do with my hands and always making sure I was prepared for class, as well as finding the classic work, school, home balance. In the future, this knowledge will be very applicable while teaching, in personal events like weddings, and of course in the work world. I believe I did improve throughout the course, not only within my confidence and performance, but also in my ability to write and create, which I think I did with much creativity. I put in a lot of imagination into my speeches, and when creating PowerPoints, I think I created engaging visuals. I could have done better on my volunteerism. I definitely lacked putting myself out there regularly, but one-on-one with my peers, I believe I was a very positive connection. To do so, I took social risks as someone who was not great at starting the conversation. Each moment was a social risk. Thank you so much. That is all I have. That was a great intersession. Thank you for all I learned, and maybe see you again one day. Thank you.